welcome to today's webinar. My name is Agustina Yasielski, and it is an honor for me to be your speaker for this session. Today, we are going to talk about effective team, what I call leading teams. And I invite you to investigate together what are the keys that neurosciences bring us to develop them. I am the founder of Orbit's People Solutions, and recently I have joined BCM Globalis as head of People Solutions. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and introduce myself. I was born and raised in Argentina, as you can tell by my accent. I studied psychology, and I have a master in organizational change and coaching. I have studied neuroscience applied to leadership and performance at the About My Brain Institute, and I also have taken a course with Tara Stewart at the MIT. Now, during the last 10 years, I worked as leading talent development teams, where I have worked extensively with diverse groups to unlock their potential in different cultures and different companies, logistics, e-commerce, and technology. During the last 5 years, I have been teaching in different faculties at the University of Salvador in Buenos Aires. I am teaching knowledge management at the University of San Martin. I teach leadership and team building with a group of people that are students of space engineering. And I had the chance to deliver one session at the About My Brain Institute about collaboration. Recently, during the last 2 years, I had become a consultant, a human partner consultant. And as I said before, I worked as founder of Orbit's People Solutions, and I also lead People Solutions at BCM Globalis. My main aim is to build more human cultures, and that's what I'm trying to do with the framework I'm going to share with you today. Now, what are the takeaways of today's session? I am going to share with you this framework that I built for thinking about team performance and their dynamics. Teams are dynamic. They are not, it can become different in different stages during different times. And I would like to share with you how neuroscience can empower your team. First of all, you need to understand how is your team performing right now, and then we are going to talk about possible actions and to apply different tips and tools to promote collaboration and well-being. It is part of this session as well to talk about anxiety at work, and I think that's something that happens to everyone in every team that I found during these years. A spoiler, sometimes leaders are sources of stress and anxiety. Let's see more about this. I would like you to make a pause. I am grateful that you are taking this time to stay at this session and give me your attention for the following 40 minutes. So I would like you to make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, and think about the teams you know. What characteristics do they have? What are the dynamics they like? What are the pain points they share with you? When do they do their best work? And when are they tired and ask you for a pause? Well, thinking about the teams in your lives, I would like to think about what are the main characteristics of an effective team. Let's explore the essential components of collaboration. First of all, a team is defined as a group of people who have a common goal, of course, and interact adaptively and interdependently in order to reach a common goal. So it's not only about the goal, but also about the interactions among the team members. So people working together and a common goal. But is that effective enough? Let's see an example. Here I have a picture of the Argentine national team in the CONMEBOL Copa America. They won the Copa America. Do you think this is an effective team? Why would you say that? While having the right people, a common goal, and clear goals are crucial, there is often a missing ingredient that we will discover together. Let's see this picture. We have Messi here, one of the most famous football players we have in the world. I hope you know him. He didn't have the best moments in his careers back in the 2040 when Argentina loses to Germany. And in Argentina, now we think he's the best football player. And I think we all thought about him as the best football player. But in this situation that we lost, all the criticism and blame was over him. Many Argentinians and part of the world was criticizing him because he was the best player, but we lost a World Cup. And there are a lot of interviews of him at that times where he shared with different journalists how he felt, and he felt really sad, not about only himself, but also his family. It was weird because in Barcelona, he played as a star and they won most of the matches. Now, what happened to this team to have this result? And what changed? Here we have another picture, and this is about Messi crying as well, but this time he was injured. And his teammates were trying to hug him. The people's comments were about supporting him and not blaming him. In fact, we won the CONMEBOL, but there was something that changed about the mindset. The collaborative mindset changed, and from this perspective, they were all a team, no matter what happened. So that changed in the team. Here's a phrase of Scaloni. Scaloni is the football coach of the Argentinian team. And he was saying, we told them that no matter if we win or lose, the sun will always rise. What is he telling us here? No matter if we win or lose, the sun will always rise. So there is a collective thought that they are a team no matter what. It's what experts call psychological safety. Psychological safety is a shared belief held by members of a team that the team is safe for interpersonal risk. And this is a research conducted at Google. Okay, they researched many teams, and the ones that were more productive were the ones that had this belief that they could share their ideas, questions, mistakes, and concerns, and there was not going to be any risk. They could still be part of the team no matter this, their beliefs, their mistakes, and their concerns. And this is something important because when team members feel they can be their own selves, they at that standpoint, they can focus their energy in their goals, in their productivity, and in being part of the team, and not focusing their energy in taking care of themselves. So this is what psychological safety makes. Interesting point to ask ourselves, okay, if psychological safety is important and is the baseline of collaboration, then what are the neurosciences telling us about what's happening in our brains to make collaboration happen? Well, I found that there are a lot of neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are chemical messengers between neurons, and they play an important part in the interactions and the connection we have with others. So collaboration and psychological safety is in the middle of this framework, but we also have 4 neurotransmitters that, of course, they are a simplification of the model. First, we have oxytocin. Oxytocin is a neurotransmitter we release when we connect with others. Think about that situations in which you are taking a coffee with someone, participating in a team building activity, opening a conversation that is important to you, and you feel the other person is listening to you in an empathetic way. In that situations, you liberate oxytocin. That's why they call it the bonding neurotransmitter, because it not only is released when you connect with others, but it also habilitates us to connect in a better way. It is also released when we feel we belong to a team, to a situation, and to a space of work. We all humans have a social network in our brains that is really important for us and for our survival. We are social beings and we need to connect and to be part of a tribe to survive. That's why oxytocin is released, and that is so important to us. Then we also need to adapt to different environments, different situations, different challenges we have in our workplaces and in our lives. And that's when that happens when we release cortisol. We could have different levels of cortisols in our lives, in our day-to-day basis. And the problem is when we have a high level of cortisol, because the adaptive response is healthy, we need it. But when we activate the threat response, when we understand or interpret that there is a threat in the environment, we are ready to attack, to freeze, or to flee. And in each of these situations, our body is responding and giving us the energy to adapt to a threat. The problem is when we have that sustained in time. Some workplaces may have toxic environments, or we need to learn how to prioritize different workloads. We don't know how to manage conflict or change management, and that's where cortisol levels are higher. The situation here is that when we have cortisol levels high, we have oxytocin levels inhibited, and relationships among the team are not the best. Then we have dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that will help us to feel happy and, fulfilled with engagement. For example, when we reach an important goal, when we are recognized by our work, when we meet the milestones we have in our career path. And it's all connected with clarifying key result areas and have recognition practices that help the team feel engaged and open to follow different goals. Dopamine is highly important. And it is also connected, of course, with the other neurotransmitters. Now, the fourth one is serotonin. And serotonin is basically is released when we feel happy. But it's not about one result. It's more about work-life balance. It's about embracing brain-friendly habits that can help us feel happy about ourselves, and also that give our brains all the energy that it needs to perform. We need to oxygenate, we need to socialize, we need to sleep, to drink water, etc., etc. All that our brain needs to balance different areas of our life's performance. So we have the brain-friendly habits. We also have the ways of working at work. So imagine you are fine, you are happy, you gain work-life balance. It's important to know how connected it is with the purpose of the company and the core values of the company, and of course the ways of working. So All of that is connected with serotonin levels. And again, it is interconnected and intertwined with the other ones. All teams are part of a culture, and cultures are built as part of different business contexts and challenges. So it's important, I also say that human partners and leaders, we need to understand how to manage and build different practices considering the needs of the business and also the culture we are working with. It's more like a handcraft work. We can have different guidelines, but it also has a part of art working with teams. So this is the main framework that we are going to deep dive now in the following slides. I am offering you an assessment that can help you understand what's your team performance right now, and then a reflection guideline to think about possible actions to take on, considering, of course, the results. What's the assessment about? It has different statements, and basically it asks you to answer to what extent you agree with that statements. It's important to say that each culture is different, and you may want to adapt that statements to your culture, your country, etc. Okay. Here are the ones related to oxytocin and psychological safety. I feel safe taking risks and making mistakes. It is safe to open up and share my inner thoughts, opinions, and feelings. It is difficult to ask other members of this team for help. My opinions and skills are valued and considered, and I feel connected with my peers. I trust my teammates. Those are some statements that you could utilize, for example, a Mentimeter, or you can bring them to a meeting, or you can consider them when you are on your check-ins or your one-on-one sessions with your teammates. The tool is up to you, but I think it's important for you to acknowledge the importance of people's perception about these topics, mistakes, feeling their own selves at work, and how they trust and work with others. The same way you have these statements for oxytocin levels, you will have them for dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol. At the end of this assessment, you will find this summary that you can write the scoring in individual levels and also as team. And if you're going to create an action plan related to the results, I always offer you and recommend to start asking questions from positive psychology. What do I mean? To start asking the team about how they feel and what behaviors and beliefs unite them. So start positive and then go to opportunity areas. That's my suggestion and recommendation here. Now, how do you feel when you trust in others? Think about that. Is it the same to trust in your colleagues than to not trust in them? When you trust in them, things are easier. You can delegate in a simpler way. You can trust that the other person is going to do what they are saying they're going to do and that they have the capabilities to do it. And guess what? When we have built environments of psychological safety, we embrace possible trust connections in which you can open yourself with the other and in which you can coordinate actions and collaborate the best possible way. So psychological safety, trust, and oxytocin levels are connected at this point. Look at this. What happens if you have low levels of oxytocin? Well, first of all, it inhibits when you have oxytocin inhibited, probably you're going to have more stressful situations and stressful relationships. That's one of the consequences. Um, in addition, you may have a team that is competitive, that may not focus on the process but on the results, and they may lose part of the picture because they are only focusing on results and they don't pay attention to relationships, to the process, and to the connections among them. That can happen. So it's important for us to pay attention to how they are connected. And of course, teams may have different moments in their in the way they adapt and they solve different situations, and that's fine. The important thing here is that you may find some balance on the team, and if they went through a high stress situation, you open conversations and in which they can reconnect afterwards. Now, here are some ways that you can boost oxytocin and build trust. Of course, it is a process and it's not one action, it's more like a collective sum up of actions that you can activate as a leader and as a human partner. Recognizing achievements, it's a good practice you can consider. Turning challenges, situations into positive stress. Stress is not bad. The problem is when it is high level and it affects our performance. Trusting people to decide how to do their work. Micromanagement is the worst thing that you can do. Generating spaces for connections with others. Okay, open up a meeting and ask, okay, how are you today? And it's not only about saying, I'm fine. Just go deeper. How was your week? How do you start the week? How are you feeling? Etc., etc. Generating space of connections can really make a change within a team. Listening to the team. Okay, so it's not the same if you're open a conversation and suddenly you're looking at, the Slack messages or the messages you have on your cell phone, or if you are not listening enough. So if you're going to ask, please make sure that you are listening too, because if not, the other person probably is not going to open up again the same way. Accepting vulnerability. And we had the experience of Messi crying and being hugged by the team. So this is something that, you leaders and human partners, we are an example, not only for what we say, but for what we do. And opening up and saying, you know what, I don't know how to do this. I I just made a mistake. Please, as a team, let's solve it together. So admitting mistakes, saying I don't know, and opening up to what you feel with the team, of course, in a balanced way, it is useful and it is human, and we connect being humans, not being robots. Opening conversations, for example, if you're a leader, what do you need and your team needs to become their best version of themselves? Is it available in this team to say, hey, I need a pause, I need to go for a walk and come back? Or is it not well seen? Of course, this is an example. Providing resources for stress management, it is also good. And, when you talk about stress situations, there's something in our brain that help us decrease the cortisol level. So it is good to talk about it. And establishing work agreements. How do we manage stress situations? That's a good agenda point to talk with your team members. Now, what's the main function of our brain? What do you think? It helps us surviving, So it is a great threat scanner. It is scanning all the time what are the possible threats that we have in our environment. Threats that can be real, like a physical threat, I don't know, a car crossing the street, and okay, might be a threat if you are not crossing the best possible way and with a green light. A snake in the jungle when we were some years ago, or the rejection from a team member. Those are all possible threats for our brain. And guess what? Our brain does not distinguish between fantasy and reality. It is the same. Okay. So as it is the same, in fact, it hurts more if it is a social threat. But we feel pain and we prepare for that situation. Our body is preparing for that situation. What can be the triggers of threat that you find at work? Well, here is a model of David Rock. He organized that possible threats or rewards into these 5 topics: status, certainty, autonomy, relentlessness, and fairness. So if we feel any of these topics or keys are affected, we may activate the stress response. If we feel that our status is it's okay, it's fine, we are where we need to be, and we are recognized, the reward system is activated. If we feel that in a conversation, in a feedback conversation, the relationship with the other person can be affected, well, we might activate the stress response, and guess what? We don't have the best conversation if we activate it. Why? Because our heartbeat is beaten fastly, we sweat, our digestion is preparing for action and not for, fueling yourself with the food in a correct way. Our mind goes straight directly to the threat and is not considering the big picture. Okay, so all our body is preparing for action. So in that moment, we don't have the best feedback conversation because we are preparing to react to a threat and not to open up to, for example, build agreements for the future. If we feel the politics or the practices of the company are not fair enough, we activate the threat mode. If we are uncertain about the future, we might activate it as well. So that's why it's so important that when we have a change management process, or when we are changing anything at the company, we create the best brain-friendly context. So we are all going forward to the same point. I think that are some of the examples I can bring up today. I hope it's good for you. Here are some expressions that I have listened as coaching. And I am bringing them to you because you're leaders, you're human partners, and sometimes any member of our team can feel this way, but they don't tell it right away if we don't ask. Look at this. If I tell him what I think, he gets angry. We agree on something and then he decides something different. So a leader that is changing things all the way and maybe agrees on something and do something different in the future, guess what? The uncertainty levels are higher and we are feeling a threat there, a threat about our own leader. That's not useful for our productivity and for people feeling the best possible way. People left the team and I heard about it from my teammates. What if it happens to me? Okay, so if you're in that situation, you do need to talk with the team members, not only having a leave conversation, but also taking care that people that are still part of the team understand the context and they don't fear that they are going to be the next in line. He doesn't value me. I don't know how to do to create value and that my leader sees me and recognizes me. you need to clear expectations and key results for your team members. He doesn't let me breathe, that micromanagement leader that are all the way like asking you something for something and asking you about it like 10 minutes after that. That can be difficult to manage, and definitely is not going to bring up the best of your teammates. If I show myself as I am, I can be rejected. Okay, those are possible situations in which you as leaders can create an environment with low levels of psychological safety. And we all have this vagus nerve in our body that it's from your brain through your heart and it gets to your gut and it connects all the autonomic nervous system, And when we activate the threat response, it is all our body preparing for action. Okay, so it is all affected, not only our brain, but also our heartbeats, our gut. Think about that situations when you had, a difficult conversation and suddenly your gut was feeling bad, feeling hurt. Okay, it is because it is connected with this autonomic nervous system. And it prepares us to attack, escape, or freeze. It can be good to fight a snake or an animal at the jungle, but in social situations, it is not useful. A team under sustained stress can become in a team that is more competitive, that they feel fatigue, that they do make a lot of mistakes, but they are only focusing on results. The innovation is not in the agenda because results, if you're focusing on results only, you're not activating the part of your body that is availing and motivating creativity and innovation, which is the balance with the other part of our autonomic nervous system that connect us with, other options. If you're activating the stress response, your mind is straight away focusing on the threat. If you want to be creative, if you want to innovate, you need to relax and you need to connect points from a different perspective and find alternatives, alternative solutions. So these teams may have communication problems, because they think they communicated it, but they didn't, or they don't spend enough time sharing thoughts and sharing news. This team can feel disconnected with the purpose of the company and they don't feel right enough. And they, of course, can feel dismotivated. So these are some of the symptoms you might find on these type of teams. Here we have anxiety. I love this character from the movie Inside Out. Anxiety is basically looking at the future, and anticipating possible threats in the future. It's the same mechanism as the stress response, but the main point or the focus is in the future. It can be activated for different situations and it has more than one trigger. If you have a team under stress for a long time, it might activate anxiety as well. How can we manage stress? Because Agustina is all good, we understand it, but what's coming next? Okay, it's important that we are working on stress levels. We understand these three main keys. I adapted this model from Dr. Koshik, and I added some parts that can help us understand what can we do to improve the stress levels in our teams, in our individual ways and also in our teams. Well, first of all, you need to work on threats. What threats do you perceive at work? What are the threats that your team is perceiving? Building a psychological safety environment and open, honest conversations is important. Once you understand what are the main threats that you find in your team, well, you can challenge that possible threats, and you can also work on different actions like opening conversations or sharing more information about business news that can help the team diminish the threat perception. Then you have the reaction patterns that are individual but are also part of teams that, for example, have different type of interactions among team members where they are not connecting. So you need to understand what is my personal reaction, then build agreements on how we can manage it as a team, and understand, acknowledge what's the influence that I am having with others when I activate this stress response. Because, emotions, they are contagious. We are not alone in a team. So if I feel under stress and I can open up and share it with my team members and they understand me, they will read my behaviors and my everything that I say, understanding the context that I am living with. So that's, for example, an agreement you can have within your team. If you are not on the best possible day, you may raise your hand and say, okay, I feel like this today, please understand me. And that can be useful, so you don't make it contagious to everyone. Of course, you can understand what are possible possible conflict resolution practices that can help you, of course, work on these reaction partners. But any program that you take about stress pillars and the stress response starts by understanding and acknowledging what's your threat perception and what can you do about it. And the third pillar, which is, I think, highly important, and this is what Dr. Koshik brings to the table, is the nervous system and how healthy habits can help you manage these situations. For example, when you're consciously breathing. The power of breathing is highly important because basically it's the one action that we can manage and change of our autonomic nervous system. If we understand the power of breathing, and there are lots of ways of breathing, you can find different alternatives and, choose the one that fits with you better. But the first thing is to understand that breathing can activate all of the stress response and can also deactivate it. Think about it. Think about a situation where you feel under stress, and then you go for a walk before having the conversation you need to have or facing the situation you need to solve. Well, when you go for a walk, when you take a breath, when you go and do something else, your heart rate goes low. And that's where you start thinking again from a conscious side and a more logic side. So that's part of managing, the stress response. We need to understand our brains and promote brain-friendly practices among our team members, because you know what? We all share the same brain. Of course, social and we are all individuals and we are different, but understanding our brain can build bridges among us. And if you as a leader understand that your colleagues need time for the work, they need to oxygenate, they need to eat healthy, they need to at sometimes talk about things that are not work related, etc., etc. If you understand that our brain has needs, you start opening up a different type of leadership. And that's something I highly suggest, because I have lived that transformation as I have started learning more about how the brain works. Well, these are the stress pillars, and you can work on all of the three if you're working with your team and you want to improve the way you work with stress situations. Now, to get the best out of your team in stressful situation, it is crucial to lower your heart rate and stay calm. This is a reflection from a neuro leader in a coaching session, and I think it's interesting, you know, because if you're leading a team and you want the best from the team, you need to start believing you're going to work it out with your team, and don't transfer all your stress right away to your team members. That's something important to, you know, to find optimal levels of performance. What can you do? Facilitate conversations of value, listening to the team, build agreements. And here are some practical tools. If you have someone else or yourself under stress and you want to transform negative stress to positive stress, the key point is that you gain back your possibility of action and you create an action plan towards that big goal or that big situation that you're facing. And in a negative stress activation, you lose control of what's happening. You know, you cannot see all the alternatives and possibilities that you have to manage it. So to transform into stress in a positive way, it requires for you to understand, first of all, what concerns me the most. What's the problem? What is that I cannot manage and is activating my stress response? Where do I have control? It's up to me. What's part of my influence levels? And what it's out of my reach at all, because it is part of the context that I need to understand, but I cannot do anything about it. That three main distinctions are important to manage stress. Remember COVID times. If you focus on the context and COVID, well, there were not much you could do about it. But if you understood it and then get to know and acknowledge what you can do about it, it changed the equation. What specific actions can I take? What are my strengths? What resources do I have? And do I need to ask for help? Because sometimes leaders, human partners, and people, we do forget about the possibility of asking for help. What indicator lets me know that I can handle the situation? And you know that you are on good track. These are useful questions that you can utilize. Now, there are also some beliefs to take into account when you ask yourself, how are you feeling? And when you ask your teammates how they are feeling. The fear of saying no, that happens in some teams, that it's not good to say no. And you know what? There's something that they forget, and I like to show them, which is you also can say yes with conditions. You can say, yes, I will do it with this time. Yes, I will do it, but I need this to perform it properly. Yes, I will do it, but you know what? I need to leave these other activities and outcomes for other moments. So I need to prioritize. So the fear of saying no is one of the beliefs that can contribute to the stress response. The fear of looking bad. If I do this, my team is going to reject me, or they are not going to approve it, or it's not good enough for the role that I am taking to say this. Seeing losing, you know, when you're on a negotiation and you are not focusing on what you can both win, but what you can both or the other person lose. Seeing yourself smaller than you are. You know, when, for example, you have a presentation you have to deliver and you feel, okay, I'm not good enough, I cannot do it. And somebody on the team tells you, what are the strengths that you have so you can perform that way? Focus on the outcome and not in the process. We are all going to make a lot of mistakes as part of our learning path. That's part of it. If you want to accomplish a good outcome, it is part of the path that you're going to make mistakes. And if at the first mistake you are taking, you feel you are not going to make it, well, that probably is going to activate the stress response. And maybe you can solve it by having a conversation and the support of your team. And finally, I don't deserve it. That's another belief that I've heard many times. Actions that you can take to reduce the stress response. Well, breathing. Consciously breathing. Singing, sighing, or doing this. Why is that helping us reduce the stress response? Because the vagus nerve, it's all the way here. And I told you that it activates the stress response and it also deactivates it to be on the relaxed mode. So anything you do with your voice can help you reduce stress response. Washing your face with water, stretching, massaging your face and neck, dancing, yoga, or moving your body in any way. You know, I am now visiting some friends, they have pets. I love them. And anytime they are under stress, they shake your bodies and get in the relaxed mode. I think that's a good picture for you to remember. If you have pets, look what your pets are doing to manage the stress response. Social connections, a hug, chatting with a friend, chatting with a colleague, and going for a walk. Those are all actions that are up to you. And here is something that as leaders, I recommend, if you're not doing it, please try doing it because it changes the game. When we appreciate and recognize people, when we feel appreciated and recognized, it helps us to turn on the positive thoughts, to liberate oxytocin and be more open to well-being. So when we appreciate, we are being grateful for small things, as the moment you woke up and you're grateful for something that happened yesterday or that you see as a positive achievement, or something simple in your life like a coffee. Appreciation is not about performance, it is about simple things, the other person, the support you have gotten you've got from other person in your team, the way someone listened to you, etc. And recognition, yeah, it is more connected with performance, achievements, and it can be also related to core values at the company if you have them defined. Recognition, it can be more work related and it's fine. And if you are not having recognition practices within your team, I recommend you to do it. Remember that we recognize in public and we deliver constructive feedback in one-on-one sessions, yeah, in private situations. So I invite you to, after this session, just appreciate someone for being the way they are, for something unique that they are bringing to the team, that it's more about the human perspective and not only about work. And think about, how do you feel when you appreciate or recognize others? There is an interesting research about appreciation that tells us that when we wake up in the morning, if we take note of one thing that we appreciate about ourselves, about the day, and if we focus on one accomplishment, one goal that we want to have for that day that is possible to achieve, that sets us for success. So I recommend that practice. Now, leading with the brain in mind, what does it mean to building psychological safety context, understanding team dynamics, boosting the team to optimal performance, leading conversations of value, and inspiring by the example? What are you the example of? What are your behaviors? What are the things that you're saying to your team, but also the behaviors that you have? Uh, what are you the inspiration? What are you inspiring your people? Here we have a harmony. I called harmony human partner because harmony means agreement between songs, the sounds in Greek. So agreement between sounds. At some point when we are working with teams, we are a great partner when we are open to understand how they are performing, what do they need, how can we help leaders gain the tools to work with their teams in the best possible way, and what are the tools that can help the team, to be owner of their own for neurotransmitters. That are some things that we can do as human partners. Included guides. Here, after this session, you're going to get the general map of neuro team dynamics, a questionnaire that you can utilize with your teams. And please, if you do so, let me know. I appreciate any feedback that I can get from this frame, and I am happy to help you as well. You will find a guide with tips and questions to open conversations with your team and, build psychological safety environments. And finally, this picture with questions and tips to work on stress. Good. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Please do connect. I would like to know more about your thoughts, and happy to help you improving the performance of your teams to get to optimal levels. See you soon.